Welcome to another edition of Seabrook Lives. My name is Pat Driscoll, the host of the show. The show is dedicated to chronicling the lives of willing Seabrook residents. Today's guest is Paulette Lindholm. Paulette, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Looking forward to hearing about your life.
Yes.
Before we get started, just a little bit of personal history. Before I went to college, I rarely left the Saginaw County in the state of Michigan. I want you to know that Paulette, before she was 17 years old, had lived in 4 countries, a couple of them twice.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
So, and we're going to be talking about some of those travels as we go through the next 35 minutes. In way of introduction, Paulette's been in Seabrook, what, 6 years?
Yes, it's, this is the 7th year.
In Flagship Terrace, right?
Yes, right.
And amongst her notable achievements here at Seabrook, she started and still maintains a French conversation.
That's correct.
Okay, well.
Yeah.
And keep it going.
Yeah, as long as I can.
No, that's good. All right, well, let's get started.
All right.
Paulette, tell us when and where you were born.
I was born in 1924 in a little town called Jérémie in Haiti.
Okay, now I think we got a map of, there's Haiti's in the
right
on the left, Dominican Republic on the right, and Jérémie's
Yes.
way on the left, that little finger
right.
going into the Caribbean, I guess.
My parents fell in love with that place because
really?
It was so peaceful and quiet, and the world was in such turmoil in those days.
This is 19, yeah, right.
Yes, so my father and mother were in the import and export business.
Now they were French citizens, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And how long had they been in Haiti?
They traveled a lot. They had their, what they call their pied-à-terre, a place to come to whenever they felt like it.
Okay.
And I was born a little early, so that's why I was born there. Although my brothers and sisters were born in different parts, wherever they were.
Wherever your parents happened to be, yeah?
Right.
Now we have a picture, now you were the last of 7 children, right?
That's correct.
I think
yes.
we have a picture of all of the other 6. This is before you were born.
That's correct, yes.
And these children, all these siblings all played a role in an important role in your life.
Absolutely.
As you were growing up. In particular, well, tell us what happened very early in your life.
Well, very early in my life, my parents died, and I was about 2.5 when both of them had died.
Your mother died last, I think, at
yes,
2.5.
Yes, that's right. And my older sister had been there in Haiti at the time, and she married a fellow from Morocco. And they were there for that period, and we lived with them for a few months, and then we went to Curacao.
Well, when you were 4 years old, you moved to, now Curacao was, a number of your uncles were living in Curacao, is that right?
Right, correct.
And
my mother's brothers, they were all in different businesses. My uncle had a department store in Curacao, in what they called La Otra Banda.
Oh, really?
It's across the bridge. And I took my children to see where I had lived, because I tell them these stories and they sound so fantastic. So I took them to see.
It's a beautiful island. We've been there a couple of times.
Yes,
yeah.
It's interesting, really.
Yeah.
And the department store is called Casa Abadi. And we lived there for a few years, and then one of my brothers took us back to my sister in Haiti for a short period.
You should mention that amongst your siblings, I should have mentioned at the time, but in the picture of your siblings was also a caretaker that spent an awful lot of time with you. Ophelia, and she went with you. I think she went with you from Haiti to Curacao.
That's correct.
And then eventually back to Haiti. Is that right?
Right, right. it was very sad to part with her.
I'm sure.
Because she was really the one who told us the most about my parents, because she was crazy about my family.
She was associated with your family for quite a while.
Right. As a matter of fact, my older sister retired her with a pension.
Oh, is that right?
Yes. And they came to America.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so did Ophelia end up in the United States?
Ophelia came to America.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yes.
Oh, that's nice to know.
It was a long relationship.
All right, now you live actually with a couple of uncles over a period of time.
Yes.
While you were in Kyrgyzstan.
That's
now,
correct.
an interesting story. Your uncle Aaron, I think,
yes,
he was the last uncle you lived with, or no, you ran away from.
I ran away from his.
Tell us
home.
a little bit about that.
Well, he was married to a English lady, and they only spoke English, and I didn't understand because I only knew French. And my uncle would bring me these records that I liked, the music, you know. And one day, my aunt must have been angry listening to the record over and over, and she broke the record. And I felt that my uncle's life was being impaired by my presence. So the next morning, I ran away to the other uncle where my other sister was living.
Now, there's a later addendum to that story.
Yes.
Way many years later,
Yeah.
Aaron and his wife
Came to
and you hadn't really seen them at all.
No,
many
I had
many
not
years.
seen them at all. They came all the way to Huntington, Long Island, where we had our home, and they wanted to ask me to forgive them for whatever they had done to make me run away. I said they had done absolutely nothing. It's just that I didn't feel comfortable making a problem in their family. And they were just so grateful to be able to spend a little time with me and understand what it was all about.
It's a nice story.
Yeah, because I was very young and I understood. It's amazing sometimes how little children know what goes on, you know.
I know that through all the years of your childhood and adolescence, you felt, you and your next younger sister
Marie,
felt a little.
Well, we felt awkward. We felt, as a matter of fact, one time we were made to feel that family leaves worthwhile things to their children, and we were the things that were left, and we were really a concern. However, I must say, because they made such a big deal of it, I felt we must be important.
Right. I'm sure at the time they felt that very responsible for you, and they loved you.
Right. I mean, I knew we were not desired, but we were important, you know?
Right. All right, so now we're back. You went back to Haiti for, what, a couple of years?
2 years, yeah.
2 years. And then
we came to America on a short trip.
Right.
And we stayed here for the summer.
So this would have been when...
36.
36, so you were 12 years old.
Yeah.
And you came... Now, did you think you were going to stay in the United States, or you
we
weren't sure?
We wanted to stay, but my brothers didn't have enough money to post for bond in case we fell in charge of the government. So therefore, we had to go with my sister to Morocco, where her husband was originating from, you know?
It's interesting. You lived with 2 uncles after your parents died. 2 uncles, a sister, a brother.
Yeah.
And then your sister again.
Right. And then after that, it was boarding school all the time.
Right.
And it was good because...
now, you went to Morocco because your brother-in-law...
Right, was from Morocco.
Was from Morocco, and they moved.
They moved there. They moved to Casablanca.
Right.
And his father was from Fez, which was the religious capital of Morocco.
Right.
And they were fairly comfortable people. And his father, we called him Grandpapa. He was the one that made us feel so welcome in his home. He treated us as if we were his relations, you know.
This is your brother-in-law's father,
right? and we've always felt very good having had that relationship with him. He was quite a gentleman. He was in the French army.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Now this was in '36, so the Second World War hadn't broken out yet.
Right.
But the Spanish. Oh no, you weren't in Spain, but you.
I spoke Spanish because of living in Curacao.
Right.
That was their language. I went to the Dutch school, but I didn't do too well there.
Now you went to, as I recall, you told me Dutch school, then you went to Italian school.
Right.
And then,
yeah, that I did when we were in Morocco. We went to Tangier to the Italian school.
Right.
And there it was boarding school, and I learned the language, and I enjoyed it very much.
Before you came to the United States, you could speak French, Italian,
yes, and Spanish.
Spanish, plus Creole language that they spoke in Curacao.
Right. Papiamento and
probably
Creole.
another language they spoke in Haiti. Right.
Creole in Haiti and Papiamento in Curacao.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yes, it is.
No English at that time, though, right?
Oh no English at all. When I came to America, I didn't know 5 words of English. But surprisingly enough, because of my studying Latin, when I picked up the New York Times, knowing what the situation was worldwide, I was able to make out something.
You were able to read the Times?
Yes.
Really?
Because I couldn't read the Daily News because they had a lot of Anglo-Saxon words.
Right.
But the New York Times had a lot of words deriving from the Latin. So I was able to get a few
That's interesting. So
ideas.
It was easier for you to read the New York Times than some other newspaper.
Yes.
All right, well, tell us how you got to the United States. Now, you were in
I was in
first of all,
Casablanca.
you graduated from high school in
Yes,
Casablanca, right?
yes.
At a Catholic
Yes, Catholic
high school.
French
Right.
boarding school.
And
Madame de Maintenon was the name of the school.
okay, now in 1939, well, go ahead. You tell the story how you came to the United States.
Well, when the war broke out, everyone, you know, my brother-in-law wanted his family to come to America, so he came here first, and he was sending for my sister and her children, my older sister. And my sister Marie and I, who were close in age, we had a French passport, and we weren't allowed to leave the country. And we needed an exit visa.
Let me ask this question. You were a French citizen at this time,
Yes.
is that right? Okay.
Well, actually, we had a Haitian passport, but
really?
with French, what we call sur papier timbré, on stamped papers, we were accepted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we had to have an exit visa, and we couldn't get one, and I had quite a job getting one.
This was when the
Vichy
Morocco
government
was in control by the
Right.
Vichy government, right?
Right. Yes.
And you eventually got one, though. You got it.
Oh yes. My sister told me that this gentleman who represented the Vichy government was the person that I had to speak with, but he was a womanizer, so I had to be, try to
You smile nicely.
feminine.
Right.
And when I got there, the people in the office started to laugh, the women, and I thought that was a little, when I told them what I wanted, what I was there for. So I was a little bit annoyed, and when this man came out of his office, and he said to me, "What are you willing to do to get this visa?"
Oh, jeez.
And I was so turned off that I said anything, but in a very nasty voice. And I think he got the message.
Okay.
And so he went to his desk and he stamped the paper, and then he came back with it, and he seemed to be coming a little bit towards me. I was suspicious of his
You were glad
ideas.
to get out of the office.
Oh, so anyway, when he was about to give me the paper, I was ready to tear it out of his hand, but I was trying to be polite, and he came very close, and I thought I didn't want him to come any closer than that. And he didn't, and he gave me the paper and he said, "Send me a card from America."
Oh, okay.
I felt so much better. At that point, I would have kissed him.
All right, so eventually, this was in what, 1940?
Yes.
40, and you got on...
41. On November 19, which was my birthday,
you got on the Serpa Pinta.
we were on our way on that big avenue in Casablanca to the boat.
Now, it was a boat, it's a Portuguese boat.
A Portuguese boat with a Portuguese
But it
flag.
picked you up in
Casablanca.
In Casablanca, okay. Now we
Yeah.
got a picture of the boat, and it's kind of a famous boat. This is a Portuguese boat that for 5 or 6 years carried refugees from Europe to South America, Caribbean, various places in the Caribbean, Cuba, other places,
right.
from Bermuda, and then United States.
Enrico Fermi, who was the person who worked on the atomic bomb, he was on the ship with us with his wife.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And we stopped in Bermuda, and the United States government sent a plane to pick him and his wife up to bring them to the United States.
He was a little more important than you, huh?
I'm afraid so.
All right. Well, then you got to while you were on the boat. Before you got to New York? What happened? In the world.
Oh, it was horrendous. It was
Pearl Harbor. Right?
Pearl Harbor happened while I was on board ship, and when we heard it, all the Europeans were delighted because we figured the Americans are going to save Europe because we had already lost the war. We were finished when we left Casablanca, you know. So it gave us renewed hope, not knowing how many lives were lost in that terrible tragedy, but we had no way of assessing the conditions of the world at that time.
It's a little ironic. We're taping this just a day after the 70th anniversary of the
Yes,
attack
isn't
on
that
Pearl Harbor.
amazing? Yeah, I thought of that. It's 70 years ago.
Right. All right, well, you're in the United States now for good.
Yeah.
For the second time and for good.
And my brothers were supposed to be here in New York to meet us, and they were all drafted in the Army because of Pearl Harbor.
And you didn't know this?
No.
Right.
So when we got here, fortunately, I had made friends with a family on board ship who were refugees from the German camps, and they had a daughter my age, so they were able to help me stay in New York City for a while.
We got another picture that has nothing really to do with you, but it shows refugees about that time, about the time you came, refugees coming to the United States. I don't know if it's the same ship or it's a similar ship, but I'm sure those folks were having similar emotions.
Without a doubt. Yeah. We were extremely excited, and needless to say, it was the beginning of a new life for us, you know.
All right, well, so what happened? You lived with whom?
I lived with this family for a while because my sister went to Virginia, where one of our uncles, who was very comfortable, had, you know, the opportunity to help my sister and her husband, and they went into a business in Virginia. So I had to remain in New York because I had started to go to a school, a beauty school.
Before you get into that, you eventually went to Wilford Academy, a beauty school.
That's correct.
But you have an interesting story about how
I went there.
How you even got
the idea.
Right.
Yeah, I took a friend of mine for a haircut, and she trusted me to tell the barber what to do, the hairdresser. And he was Italian, and of course I could speak with him in Italian, and I explained to him what I wanted, how I wanted the hair cut.
This is a son of a friend of yours, right?
The girl.
A daughter of a friend of yours.
And he said, I never saw anything like that. I don't know what you're talking about. I said, well, I could cut one side, and if you cut the other side the same way, because I'm right-handed and I don't know how to handle the other side, it'll be what I want. And when I think back, I thought, the nerve I must have had, you know? And I didn't even realize it at the time until much later, you know? And when he finished the haircut, he looked at it, he says, that is beautiful. I have never seen a better looking haircut. As a matter of fact, that's the style they have today. Right. The shorter here, and at that time that was not a style. And he said, you know, you're a natural. If you go to beauty school, I'll pay you $35 a week and you'll get commission and tips. Well, that sounded like a fortune because I was making $4 a day. Mm. And I went to Wilfrid Academy, and as luck would have it, a Frenchman owned the place, and he helped me.
It's amazing how, because this ended up being a 35-year career for you.
Oh, yes.
Essentially started from
over 40 years.
This
really.
incident. All right, well, go ahead about
this gentleman said to me, if you're willing to work, because I had no money to pay for the school, he says, I can make it so that you can earn enough money to pay for the school. So I modeled for the students with my hair, and they worked on me. They practiced their work on me. And then I worked in the supply room. And then I had weekend jobs as an apprentice in a beauty shop. So all in all, I managed to survive. And I went to work on weekends. And people always asked me to come back. But I didn't like the way their English sounded, because it didn't sound right to me. But there was one lady who spoke English beautifully, and when she asked me to come back, I went back. And I went back quite a few times, and eventually she asked me to go into business with her.
Now, she was a customer of yours?
No, she was she owned the shop.
Okay.
And I was working for her.
Okay.
She, on weekends. And then she hurt her hand, and as a result, I had to help her with the combing. And I was better at that than I was at the small stuff.
Let me backtrack a little bit. You also had an experience, a friend that you made on the ship.
Yes, those are the people that I lived with.
You lived with these people after
yes.
you? Okay, right.
Yeah, yeah. I was very lucky when you stop and think that everything connected so perfectly for me, because in all honesty, the chances of something like that happening was like a miracle.
Well, that's what makes everybody's life so interesting. You start from over here on day one, and somehow or other you get over here to...
fantastic.
It's amazing.
And this lady asked me to be her partner in a beauty shop, and my brother-in-law lent me $1,000 so that I could go in with her. And after that, we went to Washington, D.C. And I had the shop was named, I wanted to find a picture to show you, Ann Paul, because her name was Ann, and we didn't want to put the whole name of Paulette. So and that was very successful. We did well, but that was during the war. And then she got married, and she got divorced, and life became complicated for her, and
she moved away.
And she moved to Florida,
right.
And fortunately for me, I had just met my husband at that time through one of my clients.
Tell us, well, we'll get back to your business, but tell us about how you met your husband.
Well,
that's also an interesting story.
Yes, this lady was from California who was a client of mine, and we became very friendly. And she said to me, I'm giving a party for my husband. He's coming back from the war. And I've invited all of his friends because I found his book with the names of the people, but you're the only friend I have here. Would you come? And I said, oh, I'll be honored to. But that evening, it was a Friday, I was so tired. I was just about to call her to tell her that I don't think I can make it. The doorbell rang. It was her husband picking me up. So I was embarrassed, and I said, oh, I'll only be a few minutes. And I threw myself together and went. And that's when I met my husband.
Your husband's name is Tom, right?
Yes, Tom Lindholm, yes.
Tell us a little bit about him, Tom.
Oh, he was amazing.
He's a Swede.
He's a Swede.
Born in Sweden.
Yes, and he comes from the most wonderful family, which I was fortunate to meet a little later, and they were wonderful to me, and they just happened to be great people. And that's why I did send my grandchildren and my children to Sweden this past spring.
Yeah.
To visit with them.
Is that the picture? We'll see a picture of that later on.
Right, because I wanted them to know where their father came from, you know?
It's probably, your marriage is probably one of the few between a lady born in Haiti and a man born in Sweden.
Oh, absolutely. He treated me, when he asked me to marry him, I said, no, I don't think it's a good idea because I have so many needs and I don't think is a living person that could
fulfill them.
Yes, and I was hearing so many divorces, and I don't like complicated things, so I didn't think it was a good idea for me to get involved with marriage, you know. It seemed to me that the government is in your affairs by making it legal and all that stuff. With the mind that I had at that time, this was not what I wanted. But he said to me, well, you know, in New York, if you get married and you're not happy after 3 months, you can annul it. You don't have to get a divorce. Oh, I said, that sounds interesting.
Whether that's true or not, we don't know.
I never knew. I never
Right.
knew. And then I told him I didn't want any children because I didn't want to do what, if I died before they grew up, I didn't want that.
You didn't want them to experience what you experienced.
No, that was not an ideal situation. So he said, that's okay. And I said, and I need a mother, a father, and the whole works. He says, I'll be able to do all that. And he was. He was everything to me. He cherished me and treated me like his most valuable possession. And it was that way for me too.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, we as a matter of fact, when he was ready to go to die, I said to him, you know, you promised me to stay my forever, not your forever. He said, I wished.
Yeah, well.
But he had a greater sense of humor.
You were married for what, 62 years?
Yes, 52 years.
52 years.
My children are writing a book about some of the sayings that he had because he was so funny.
Really? Oh, that's nice. I'd like to see that book.
It was so, it's unbelievable, the little, just out of nowhere, you know.
Now he was